the stuff.
This is SportSpace.
Making this live. Sorry to interrupt. Our teacher, Mr. Harper, has won an award.
Welcome back to a special edition of Sports Space. I'm your host, Simon Besnoy, joined as usual by Ben Riches. Ben, how are you doing today?
Doing great today, Simon. And today, as you mentioned, it is a very special episode, and that is because we're joined by a special guest. Does he want to introduce himself?
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I'm Coach Topher LaRussa. I'm the varsity boys soccer coach at Northridge High School.
So, just so far, just getting started. How's the season been going?
It's been a great season so far. We've tested ourselves with a very tough schedule. Started off the season with 3 of the best teams in the state, 3 teams we knew we'd probably face in playoffs. And it was difficult to start the season off, but it allowed us to really learn about ourselves and really start knocking the door down and figuring out what we can do to become the best version of our team. And it's been a great season. The successes we've seen have been awesome.
Absolutely. So it sounds like your goal is to just go all the way, right?
Of course, yeah.
Obviously. And it sounds like the season so far has been working towards that goal. What are your specific goals outside of reaching that championship? Specific goals on the field for the rest of this year?
Yeah, so, high school sports are difficult in the sense that there's one main goal, winning state, but only one team gets to do that. So as a coach, I figured out it's really important to help the team have other ways to find success as the season goes along. So there's multiple ways to do that. One key thing for our team is that we want to control every game. So what we always emphasize is the more possession we have, the better. So that's a success we see every game. If we have over 50% possession, we are doing something right. Another thing is we started the season off slow in scoring. We weren't scoring enough goals. And so that became a big emphasis for us. More goals we score, that's how we know we're progressing in the right direction. So I'd say that control of possession, those goals scored, and then past that, the guys developing as a team. So them meshing, them playing together, having different guys score, different guys get on the field, different guys get more minutes has been important and showed success as we go.
And I know you kind of just touched on it, but how do you build? I mean, like high school coaching isn't obviously you want the on-the-field success, but a lot of it is building a community off the field. And how do you, what are the main ways that you help build that and grow that community?
Yeah, I think it starts obviously with the players, helping them to understand that they each have a role on this team. So we always talk about 2 roles on our team. Your first role is what you offer us on the field. If you score, you pass, you defend, that stuff. But then your second role on the team is a teammate and a person of the team. So how well do you represent our team on and off the field? How do you represent us in the school? How do you represent us when you're talking to the refs, to the other coach, the other team? How well do you support your teammates? That energy and effort that they give us off the bench and stuff like that. So really helping each player understand whether you're playing 80 minutes a game or 0 minutes a game, what is your role in this team? What can you offer us to build up our program more? So helping them understand that leads to each player putting in more effort and understanding where they can put that effort.
Right. Would you say there are any specific players, and I'll put you on the spot with this one, specific players on your team that you've seen a lot of growth from, or really special performances from that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, that's always difficult because there's so many of them, obviously. They've all been great this year. If I wanted to point out one, I'd probably start with Connor Hooks. He has been a center back, a defender just about his whole life. And like I said, we were struggling to score at the beginning of the season. We weren't conceding much with Connor back there. But then he came up to me and we talked about it. And he was like, let's try me up top. He said, I'll listen, I'll work hard, I'll do what's required of the position. So we moved him up there. And since that moment, he's become our lead goal scorer and our captain in that front line that really sets the tone for us. So his progress in switching positions as a senior has been awesome to see. I'd say besides him would be our young center back. So Brian, Mac, and Micah, they're all fairly young for center backs. And I told them 3, hey, if we want to move Connor up, y'all have to step up. Y'all have to be ready to start, play big minutes so that we can fill that gap. And they did it instantly. So I'd say those 4 guys have been huge for us.
And it speaks a lot to your culture that you're able to move players around like that. And they're just going to stay with the program and stay with, working towards that eventual end goal.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then, kind of just staying with highlighting certain players after every game, y'all do a man of the match post on social media. And just what does it symbolize to your team? Because after all those videos, the whole team comes together and celebrates that one person. No one gets upset that they weren't the man of the match. Just what does that symbolize for the culture? Just staying on that topic, what does that symbolize for your program?
Yeah, so I'd say it's important for our program to understand that it's 11 guys out there, so it's never truly about one individual. And I try to mention that each time that, hey, it could be anyone, right? But at the same time, it's nice to get rewarded at times, right? And you want that encouragement. So I always choose that player, typically based off someone that led us as a team. So it's not always about who scored the most goals, who did the most skill moves. It's who was communicating. It was who was giving us energy, who was encouraging their teammates well, helping me with the coaching points out on the field. And so it rewards us in the right way. It rewards a player that is doing what our whole team needs to do. So typically when I give that award out, the whole team should be like, yeah, he did help us today. He is the reason that we are able to press harder, work harder. So it's kind of an award that is, you got this, not just because of you as an individual, but what you did to make the team better today.
Right. And from your perspective as a coach, what do you think is the most important quality for a coach, not necessarily on the field, but in making that culture around the program and making the program grow to the next level?
I'd say it's belief in your own players. All the players are really good players. And believe it or not, like, I think as a coach, you need to think and believe that your players are better than they think they are, because they need that encouragement, that positive reinforcement, and that motivation. Because what you need out of players to take it to the next level is them to try harder, for them to work harder in every practice. So that belief that, hey, you can work harder, you can run one more lap, you can do one more rep, and then showing them that when you do that, you start to play better, you start to become the best players in the state, right? So that encouragement. And then I'd say off of that is the understanding that each player is coached a little bit differently. Just like in the classroom, everyone learns differently. Some people are visual, some people need to work it out themselves. So helping by giving each of those options to the players. So if a player doesn't do well with me just telling them something, can I get the whiteboard out and draw it for them to show it that way? Or can we set up and then walk through the drill before doing it so that everyone gets to learn in their own way?
And then you haven't been the coach at Northridge for very long. So this is your second year. And just for yourself, how have you grown as a coach and as a person over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I definitely a ton. When I first took over, I was definitely had a lot to learn. And I'm very grateful to the other coaches around me and even the players for how they've helped me in that. And I'd say the biggest things that I have learned is, one, the importance of letting your sessions build. So in a practice, you don't want to work on one thing and then something completely opposite, because it just doesn't promote learning. What promotes learning is letting your session build. So you start with something very small and then add more defenders and then add more guys on offense and let that session really build. And then the second thing I've learned a lot about is what I've already mentioned, is that each kid is so different. And so I like to be coached one way when I was playing. That doesn't mean my players like to be coached that way. So being better at understanding each individual player and then how to adjust my coaching for them specifically.
Right. Let's move back on the field for a second. You mentioned you have a really tough schedule this season. Y'all trying to challenge yourselves to win that state championship. We've already had some good wins. We're showing them a second ago, but there's still some more challenges remaining. Is there one team on your schedule that you have circled that you're like, we're really excited for this opportunity?
I'd say Mountain Brook next Tuesday. Mountain Brook's always a fun game. They're a big 6A opponent for us. So Mountain Brook's going to be a good one. And then Gardendale and Homewood the week after that. Those are 3 6A teams that I believe are all ranked top 10 right now. So all 3 of those, they're all coming to us at Northridge. So we'll be excited to go after them.
What would you say are the biggest keys to victory for those 3 games?
Controlling the game, whether we're in possession. When we're in possession, how many passes can we connect? How much can we make them chase, make them run? And then defensively, a big thing for me is typically on defense, you feel like you're not in control. You're running backwards, you're defending your own goal. So switching that mindset when we're playing against these better 6A opponents, that we're on defense, if we are more organized, if we are louder, if we are making it so they can only go one way to one player, then we have switched that mindset and we are now in control. So just control your opponent and you can win any of these games.
And then I'd say going back off the field, is like, how do you hope to help your players grow as people off the field?
Yeah, that's a very important thing for me. And I try to coach in a way that does that. I really do believe that sports teach you virtue and they teach you things that apply off the field. and things that you learned off the field can be applied on the field. So I try to always revisit that in my coaching points. So for example, I need them talking on the field, calling for the ball when you're open, telling us where we should go. And then to change that, I can tell them, seniors, next year, you might be trying to apply for a job. If you can't effectively communicate with the employer or with the other people at your work, then you're probably going to struggle there. So why not right now work on that communication, that public speaking, like talking in front of the whole team, so that you can take those types of life lessons and apply it to the real world.
Absolutely. We were talking about these big games coming up. Is there a mindset that you have to get into to play these big games, or is it something that you really carry over the course of the whole season? Because there's definitely a difference in quality between some of the different teams on your schedule.
Yeah, there definitely is. And I'd say the main part of that for me is, yes, you want to be at your very best for these big games. You want to win those games, but obviously you can be hyped up for Mountain Brook, Homewood. You can be hyped up for those games. And when we're playing these opponents that we know we are probably better than, it's so important for me that in those games we do every little thing right. Because in those moments, no one's watching. People don't care as much. The hype isn't there. So seeing them make the right decisions in those lesser moments allows them to be more prepared for those bigger moments. So that mentality, and then the mentality of just belief in yourself. You're good enough. You can do it. We are good enough. We can do it.
It's great.
Yeah. And then I don't know if you've thought much about this, but, NIL's kind of been a revelation around the country at obviously the college level, but a lot of state legislators are passing bills that are allowing that to happen at the high school level. And I'm not sure how, and Alabama currently doesn't permit high school athletes to earn money from NIL. But I don't know if you've given it much thought, and I'm not saying this would happen to anyone at Northridge specifically, but just in the general sense of high school athletics from your perspective as a coach, what would you think if that was implemented at the high school ranks?
I think it's a difficult situation, right? Because, you want players to be rewarded, but at the same time, it can always go down the wrong path. So I would just say that, the people who are making these types of decisions and everything, and everyone involved, the players, the coaches, the administrators, just making sure that any steps that are taken are for the best for the players. So whatever is best for these kids to develop, because it's always important to remember, there's student athletes, your kids, there's so much more into it. So just making sure that we're looking at every viewpoint to make the right decisions.
All right. So to finish it off, give almost a closing statement. What do you want the people here in the community to know about Northridge Jaguar soccer?
I want them to know that it's a family and it's a huge program, and we don't want it just to be the soccer players. We want it to represent the school, right? There's a reason that we wear the school on the front of our jersey, and it's because we represent the whole school and everyone in the area. So I want every person to feel part of what we're achieving. We try to be as active as possible on social media to include everyone. So I encourage everyone to buy in, just how I'm asking my players to and my staff to come to games, to support us, to come down and celebrate with us after wins and be part of this season with us.
It's great.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm trying to figure out which camera. We were used to having just a two-shot of me and Ben, but thank you for joining us. I mean, this was a great time. It's our first interview that we've done on this set. And I mean, I think I had a blast, and I really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Of
yeah,
course.
This is awesome.
We're going to have so many interviews over the next couple of weeks as we prepare for Skills USA. And just thank you so much for joining. Maybe not usually our typical content, and we really appreciate it. And we'll be back with another interview next week. And should we go ahead and say, or?
Sure. So next Wednesday, I believe.
I believe Wednesday.
We'll be joined by the head football coach at Central, Coach Mario Pippin. We're excited for that.
Yeah, that'll be a very exciting interview. Be prepared for that next Wednesday at the same time. Thank you so much for joining us.